We're live, not really live, but episode 144, Forever Two Wheels podcast. Paul Yaffe, you're here. You've been on this before in various forms. I should probably figure out what episode that was previously where you gave us your whole life story.
Oh my God. Thank God I have ADHD and I don't remember these things.
It was fun. It's a great story. It's definitely inspirational for anybody out there who hasn't listened to it. You should go listen to it. But today we're talking about riding motorcycles. And that's, you smiled automatically. Why is that? What's that smile?
One of my favorite things.
Yeah.
I don't get to do it enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you ride more than most custom builders though.
I don't know. I don't really know how much they ride. So what I don't do is I don't ride a bike to like work and back. I don't ride around town all day long. I don't like the traffic. I don't like, wondering what someone's going to do and make a left-hand turn in front of me or whatever. And
for sure.
And I'm also being in my truck when I'm driving. My car's kind of my office because I'm driving a lot back to here and there and whatever. And so it's quiet. I don't listen to music. I use it kind of my quiet space. So, but whenever I can get a chance to get out of town and ride, I love to ride distance. That's really my thing. I like to, an all-day canyon ride is fun, but then usually by the end of that day, I want to get a hotel room and do it again tomorrow. So
yeah,
I want to do day after day after day after day kind of thing, because it takes a couple of days just to even, get out of your head and get into the motorcycle. And there's a point that I have a few guys that I ride with that have similar love for the types of riding that I like to do. And we always talk about that morning when you get up and you're one with your motorcycle, and it doesn't just happen, every time you get on a bike. It takes some time, and I'm often riding different bikes. It's not the same bike every time. So, I'm always building a new bike, or I'm testing somebody else's bike, or I'm testing some new design, or trying out a new model, or just getting on. I have a few bikes, so getting on a different, and they're completely different from, like getting on a SRT Road Glide one day, and then getting on a 26-inch wheel Road King the next day, and then getting on a 76 Kawasaki KZ900 the next day.
Sure.
Yeah, completely different experiences, right? So
yeah, but don't you think that keeps you kind of on your toes as well? Like it makes you more aware of the actual of riding, right?
It does, and they're, different bikes are for different things. So it's funny, I have this big desire, and I think I'm going to pursue it. So I've always wanted to try like a what I guess it's called a dual sport. Like a
oh yeah, like a GS, yeah, like a BMW GS, yeah.
So now with Harley coming out with this, I think it's called a Panamera or Panamerica.
Panamera. Oh yeah.
Whatever it is. So that model is super interesting to me. So as soon as they're introduced, and as soon as I can get my hands on one, I will. And I think I will take it right up to my cabin. And from there, so my cabin sits below what's called the Mogollon Rim, which is the northern part of Arizona. There's a huge set of cliffs, a rim, right, all the way around the northern part of Arizona. And so we sit right underneath it. So I want to go explore the Mogollon Rim. So you climb up some trails and get to the tops of the cliffs and go find some stuff. So
sure.
But I'm hoping that'll be the perfect vehicle to do it. And then in doing that, of course, I'll, hopefully I'll come up with all kinds of ideas of ways to better that bike, right? And I'll make a bunch of accessories for it.
Nice.
I think it's a really interesting segment. And I'm surprised, actually, that Harley's stepping into it. But I know nothing about that segment. I've never been on a dual sport bike. I've never ridden a bike like that across the desert. But God, we have great riding here for that. And I think it might, it's something I can do for a couple days, maybe camp. There's a whole other thought, of actually putting up a tent or something, and with a couple buddies, who knows, So
sure.
Very interesting That's certainly in my future, I would think.
Yeah, that's funny that you say that. I plan on my 50th birthday's a couple years out, and I plan on riding that bike to Alaska
Oh, wow. Nice.
that year. That is happening.
Yeah,
So
I have some bucket list. I have some future plans with friends to do certain things with them. My buddy John Christner is an avid rider and just seems to know every road in the United States, whether it's on a map or not. He just
sure.
he has a huge trucking company, and I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but the guy is just, whenever we're on a ride, he seems to be the map maker. He's the route.
A hamster, I'm assuming.
Yeah. And Christner Trucking out of Oklahoma, super wonderful man. And so he's promised me a back roads tour of Utah, which I love riding Utah. So,
dude,
people just don't realize how amazing it is. So,
no, yeah.
What I've done in Utah has been mind blowing. And we did a couple of years ago. We were going through Utah on the way to Sturgis. I ride to Sturgis every year. That's a big trip of mine every year. So, but I was with him, and we were in some place in Utah. I can't even remember the name of the little town we were in. I've never been there before. But we came through this canyon on the way in, and we got lost. And we ended up on this road. It was the most breathtaking road I've ever. You see those pictures of those people that are in like slot canyons. Like you go and it's all sand carved, and it felt like the entire road was like that. It felt like we were riding a motorcycle through that, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
It was breathtaking. And of course it was getting dark. We're running a little late, so we kind of blew through there. And we didn't have the time that I wanted to spend there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he promised that we would get together one maybe after Halloween one fall, and we'd meet up there. It's a quick few hours for me to get into Utah.
Yeah.
And he just he throws a bike in one of his trucks and has it drop somewhere, and he'll just come in and meet. So we were going to go do it. We just haven't done it yet, but maybe this year, maybe next. Might be a little weird this year with everything going on. I don't know. I'm weird. I'm a little worried about riding somewhere and then not having any place to stay, or not being able to get something to eat, or you just don't know. It's a difficult time to just get on a bike and ride, right? You can't just, unless you just want to live on almonds from the gas station or whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway,
which I bet you've been known to do.
I have. One of our favorite things on long rides is sooner or later you got to do some laundry. If you're gonna, if you're going out for 6, 7, 8 days, you're not packing enough. You got one pair of jeans, maybe two. If you're lucky, usually one pair of shoes. I'll usually have a pair of riding boots that I'm wearing, and then I'll have the walk around shoes that whenever you get where you're going that night, you put those shoes on to walk around.
Sure.
And but there's always, so what I was getting at is there's always laundry day, and laundry day is usually you order a pizza and a 6-pack of beer to the laundromat, you hang out in your underwear, and we all do our laundry in our underwear.
That has got to be a sight to behold.
Yeah, you just you turn one of the washing machines into a table for your pizza and have some beers and do your laundry. Right? So that's always it. People walking in, you never get over the looks on people's faces as you're. And of course, we always have special underwear for laundry day. So you got,
of course, everybody's got their yellow underwear on.
Got to have your Home of the Whopper shorts or your whatever. Yeah. So, square pants, underwear, whatever it is. So, that's always the contest, is who's got the funniest underwear to hang out in the laundromat. So
that's good stuff right there. Yeah, it's those moments though, right? It's those like silly. I think that there's. The ride is one thing, but it's those moments in between too, where it's like you have those moments at the gas station when you're like eating beef jerky and drinking a Red Bull or whatever, and you have that conversation with somebody that maybe you didn't know as well on the ride or whatever, or you're sitting there and there's a mountain goat on the side of the road, or
you never know. There's lots of those stories, and lots of camaraderie, right?
Yeah.
Hey, did you see that, whatever, on the ride? Or, there's always, it's such an adventure. Every day is just totally different. You never know what's going to happen. But the last thing you're thinking about is what's going on at work, or what's going on at home, or your checking account, or your kid needs braces or whatever. You're just not thinking of any of it. It's you and the motorcycle and the road and the adventure and, and it's great. Me and some of the guys I like to ride with, I like to ride hard, I guess you'd call it, or I like to ride. I'm more of a sport rider, I guess you could call it. So I like.
Is that what you call that?
Yeah. So, yeah,
You're a fucking maniac, Paul.
Sport is good. Well, there's a sport to it, right? There's a lot to be said for me. So I'm usually building bikes that are unusual or have a lot of unusual things done to them, right? So, or maybe some things that are different, innovative, maybe something that hasn't been done before. So it's always, I like to think of myself as having a adequate engineering mind. So, so it's always nice when you put something on a bike and then you go prove it. So, and then, so the proving part of it's fun for me. And then I want to see what the bike can do. I want to, so that's the sport of it is taking something that looks like it couldn't do what I'm doing on it and then do it on it. Right. So,
yeah. So for instance, like taking that was it a 26 inch? The one, I wish I could remember the name of it. The one that you brought to Lichter.
Oh, when we went through Estes Park?
Yeah.
That day, that was a great ride. That was a great day.
Dude, that bike, in my opinion, should not be ridden like that.
Well,
it's like $110,000 motorcycle or something that's like completely engraved and like
the Celtic King.
The Celtic King, that's what it was. And I tried to keep up with you. There was
now remember that guy pulled out in front of us and he was on
the crotch rocket.
Yeah, he was like
on a Ducati.
His Ducati, his Hayabusa, whatever he was on. So immediately my ego was challenged, right? And so it's like now I want to be on the guy's butt and I don't want him to be able to shake me. There's just something fun in that, right? That's just super fun. Every time he looks in his rearview mirror, you're like, oh, I'm still here. He's like, holy shit. And then when you finally get somewhere where you all pull off, he'll look at your cycle and go, there is no way you kept up with me on that. So there's something that's just, I don't know why that's fun for me, but that's super fun. Yeah. Challenging.
Yeah. It's terrifying to watch.
Yeah. Oh, those bikes handle great. They really, I think so. I think they handle terrific. So.
Well, I think so. One of the things you were talking about, like going out and proving something,
right?
So the immediate piece, and this is not a marketing piece, right? Like I'm doing this because I think riding is important. I think people need to understand that, like a lot of the bikes that they think are unrideable are not. It's just a matter of getting the right bike with the right configuration and the right person riding it, right? Like a lot of people don't know how to ride it, but I think at least for me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the best example of that is the SRT, right? Like you look at that and you're not like, oh, that's going to handle great. You're like, that's going to be really heavy in the front end and who knows what. And then you get on it and you're like, what the hell happened? Can you talk a little bit about when you got on your configuration, like the perfect configuration of that the first time and what you thought?
Yeah, sure. So the SRT thing, so the big wheel movement, whatever you want to call it, right? The bagger thing. We all know that big wheels are what lit the bagger market on fire, right?
Sure.
People have been doing baggers. Arlen been doing baggers for decades. Lots of notable builders have done baggers. Brian Clock, world fastest bagger, so on and so forth. But when people started putting larger wheels on the touring bikes, and we just happened to be, at the front of that. There was a few back room guys that were playing around with these weird tires from Thailand, and they're making a 23-inch tire, they're making a 26-inch tire, and so I just happened to kind of be in the little clique of guys who had access to some of those handmade, no DOT, don't hold air. Fill them up at every gas station kind of thing, but,
sure.
But they were really cool, right? So At least we thought they were cool. So for me, my challenge back then was to engineer the chassis to maintain trail, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the biggest, right? Your rake and your trail are what makes the bike handle. And I could go on. You and I could just go.
Oh, I know.
Rake and trail, right? So
giraffe necks and all the.
right.
We won't go there.
Don't get me started.
Yeah.
I'm very opinionated about that stuff. So we came up with a couple different rake configurations. Actually, even Joey Purse was helping me out in the very early parts of that, machining some weird trees, right? And then who did a disappearing act?
Yeah,
shocker. And then Mark over at HHI was making some trike triple trees, and he helped me out with some of our finished designs and stuff. But so we did I think in 2008, we did a 23-inch wheel. 2009, we did a 26-inch wheel. And the trail, we were able to come up with a formula that would maintain the factory trail, right? 6.5 inches of positive trail on a stock bike, 6.5 inches of positive trail on any one of my modified bikes. That to me was the key to keeping things balanced. And keeping things handling well. And when I say handling well, people will mess around with trail numbers and do bolt-on kits or double neck kits or all kinds of weird stuff. And then they'll say, hey, the things ride fine. And you know what? Maybe they do ride okay when you're going down the road. But it's when you need the bike to handle is when trail really comes into play. And people don't understand that. They're like, hey, man, I rode this thing around my neighborhood and it felt great. And I always tell them, I go, hey, run that thing up to 75 miles an hour and lock up both your brakes, right? And that's when you'll find out how your bike handles, right? It'll either skid straight to a stop or it'll completely fishtail 90 degrees side to side, come around on you, and you'll flip over backwards, and that's
not recommended at home. Not recommended at home. Don't lock up both.
Don't try this at home, kids. But that's when it's in bad situations that you need your bike to handle, or it's when you're doing 90 mile an hour through a turn and your tires start to lose traction, right? And right then at that moment, as you feel your back end starting to come around on you a little bit, do you grab a handful of brakes, right, and stand the bike up, right, and skid across the road and probably off a cliff, or does the bike handle well enough that you can accelerate, lean harder, right, and the bike drifts into it because the trail is right, and the rear wheel knows its job and the front wheel knows its job, and you pull out of that, and the guy behind me, like you, has a heart attack, right? But because you're watching that, right? But for me, the bike did what it was supposed to do, right?
Sure.
It did. That's the difference. That's where trail really comes in. So as the big wheels kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and the rides got ruined, right? In my opinion, I tried riding. I built a 30-inch bike and rode Sarah to Sturgis on it in 2013. 2013 I think 2013 is when I rode, or 2014. So let's see, Sarah's 25.
It's your daughter.
It was her
by the way.
birthday. Yeah, it was for her 18th birthday. She wanted to ride to Sturgis with me. That was her birthday.
Sure.
So I planned a 3,800 mile route to 7 national parks. Built a 30-inch wheel road glide, matching helmets with intercoms and everything, and luggage because I'm gonna have my daughter with me. She's gonna need 8 pair of shoes. And and me and my buddy Tony and his daughter and Sarah and a few friends rode out of here. We went to Reno and Tahoe and up to Oregon and Washington and Montana and Idaho and all. It was just unbelievable, right? Amazing trip. Met friends along the way, just terrific. But
ride of a lifetime.
That 30-inch wheel bike, while we created new geometry, we kept the trail. I think we couldn't keep the trail at 6.5 inches. It was like closer to 7. It was a little over. And what that created was at super high speeds, when you got over 100, 105, 110, the front wheel and the back wheel start to compete a little bit for control of the bike. So you get this little, you've seen it on sport bikes where they're coming into a turn or coming out of a turn and they hit a bump and they do this kind of thing. It's not just a tank slap. The whole bike kind of wobbles because the tires are fighting each other. So at certain speeds you would get that. And then if you were laid down tight turn, and there was any interruption in that turn, like an expansion joint or something like that, like on a bridge or something, and you had to go over it, because the bike was so long and there was so much fork, you'd get a little flex, right? You'd get this kind of
which is creepy.
And the flex, you have to. It's weird to get out of it, to stop the because it's like inertia. Once it starts doing it, it's
like a spring. Yeah.
Spring, exactly like a slinky. It just keeps going. Right? So I would have to jump up on the tank. I'd push up on the tank and kind of put my weight on the handlebars, and then I'd have to roll on the throttle a little harder, which is hard to do when you're wobbling.
And you got a passenger on the back.
You wanted to shut it down, right?
Yeah.
But which makes it worse. So you had to do that, and then it would settle down, right? It would kind of fight the inertia out of it. And thank God my daughter, she sits on the back of the bike, and she like hits me in the back of the helmet, faster.
Yeah, trusts you implicitly.
She loves it. She falls asleep on the back of the bike. So yeah, she truly loves it. So, but anyway, but the 30 was just too. I got every night when I would get back to the hotel or wherever, or to the next hotel, your these things, your trapezius or whatever.
Yeah,
I'd be like a football player. They'd be all pumped up, and because just from the inertia of the wheel, gyro effect, and how it's not hard to turn. It doesn't feel like it's hard to turn, but like we climbed up to 14,000 feet to the top of Glacier Park, right?
Sure.
Switchback, and you're doing it at 10 miles an hour in traffic. And on a big bike like that with luggage and a passenger and everything, it's a lot to negotiate all that, right? And you don't really feel it when you're doing it, but then at the end of the day, when you get off and you're like, oh God, your shoulders and everything up there is completely pumped up. And anyway, I came home not loving the 30-inch wheel, right? So I think that's when we were thinking about, what else can we do? We love the big wheel stuff, but what can we do to make them? And the tires were getting so thin, the rides were rougher. Every time you hit a toothpick in the road and your bike, jumps. And so my buddy Doug and I were in Sturgis at some show. We were at a bike show, and we saw a road glide with it had a 180 tire on the front of it on a 16-inch wheel. Trying to remember Paul, how can I forget that name? Paul from Native Baggers had put this bike in his show, and it had this fat tire on the front of it. And me and Doug were like, that's really cool. It's just a nice road glide. There wasn't a lot done to it. It was just clean. Everything unnecessary was kind of taken off. It was just a really nice, tidy, kind of looked like a very muscly looking bike, and I said, wow, that's really cool. I said, I just thought the front wheel's too small. The diameter of it's too small. It needs to be bigger, right? And of course, we walked around for a couple hours saying, what if we did a big wheel with a fat tire? Wouldn't that look cool? And so on. And I was telling him, I said, I had done in 1992. I took an FLH standard, and I cut all the plastic nacelle off of it and put an old FLH aluminum nacelle on it, and made this kind of cool looking bagger that I was going to ride to Sturgis. And I put a 170 tire on the front of that bike.
Oh, wow.
I had a 170 rear tire that I ran backwards on an 18-inch rim. It was an Acron rim. I've got pictures of it on the wall in my shop. I still have long hair. I still have all my hair.
Nice.
Somewhere I have a picture of me riding it to Sturgis. Yeah. It's a bright orange FLH. It was kind of like the first Road King before Harley was making Road Kings, right? So it looked just like it had that headlight nacelle on it. So anyway, I just remember that bike rode really nice, and I had a nice trip on it. So then I think 2015. So a year and a half later, something like that, we had been playing around with wide tires, and I found Avon had made a tire for Big Dog. Big Dog made a model called the Wolf, and it had a 20-inch rear wheel on it. And they made a 180 tire. Or actually, I take it back. It was a 220 tire. It was in 2020. So those Big Dog was long gone or whatever, but I called Sochi at Avon and she still had a couple of those tires, right? So she sent me a couple of those Avon tires. So that was the first tire that we started playing around with the SRT look on. So it was an 8.5, 8 3/4 inches wide, huge front tire.
Sure.
That became the SRT that we built for History Channel.
Oh, okay.
I was working on, do you remember the rubber Nucky, that knuckle?
Yeah.
So that had the other tire. I had two of those tires. The rubber Nucky got one of them, and the SRT got one. And I was working on both of those bikes when History Channel showed up, and they were like, well, you've got to build a special bike through this show, right? That at the end of it, you guys are going to go to Sturgis and compete with. And I was like, well, which one do you want it to be? I'm working on both of them. I can't finish both of them, so.
Yeah.
So the Road Glide became the kind of focus, and the Nucky was a little more complicated. I was worried about being able to finish it because I already had a vision for that bike, and I just knew that everything was going to be one off, and it was going to be.
Bike is insane.
A monster.
I love that bug. I love that bike.
I love that bike too. So, and I rode that bike across the country. I had a great trip on that bike. Yeah. Chasing Kevin Alsop from Big Bear Chopper. Yeah. Chasing him. He was on one of those 145-inch S&S FXR things he does, and just refused. So I blew that motor back chasing him. One of those times where I refused to let him pull away from me, right? So
yeah.
But we did realize that the rubber Nucky will do 130 miles an hour. Yeah. So it's been documented. So we started playing around with that 220, and it needed a ton of modification to fit it in the front of that bike. We had to make wider trees. We had to shave the legs. We had to cut the fork bells. Just everything was wildly custom to make it work, right?
Yeah.
But it worked, and it made a really cool bike, and it had this. It looked like a steamroller. That's where the steamroller touring.
Sure.
You stand in front of that bike, and you're like, "Holy crap!" It looks like a steamroller when you look at it. So we finished that, and my plan was to kind of put it into production, right? To make some kind of a kit for it or whatever. So I'll skip some of that stuff. So 6 months later, I call Sochi and Avon and say, "Hey, everybody loves this wide tire bike. You said something about you had a container of those tires that Big Dog never took delivery of. Let's talk about making arrangements." It was like 1,500 tires, right? And
sure.
So I want to buy the container, so I have the tires or whatever. And she was like, "Oh, well, that was a year ago when I sent you those tires." And I was like, "Well, yeah." She's like, "Well, they expired. I had to destroy them." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, when a tire expires as a manufacturer, we can't sell it once it's reached its expiration date. So, we didn't have a use for them or anything. So the tires were destroyed." And I'm like, "All of them?" Of course, me, right? And she's like, yeah, all of them. And I'm like, "Oh my God, what am I going to do? I have this whole plan, and
yeah.
There went that. So we had talked about making them again with them. She didn't want anything to do with it really, so I went on this hunt. I should say I had Kevin go on a hunt on the internet, and everywhere he could to find every one of those tires that was ever in existence. Right?
Sure.
He found me 8 of them. Yeah, he found 8 through every cave he crawled into, but he ended up finding 8 of those tires. A couple of them he paid like $500 for.
Oh my God.
For an old expired Avon tire, but anyway, I bought 8 of them. So if nothing else, I have spare tires. So if the SRT or the Nucky ever throw a tire, got spare tires for them. So I ended up giving one to Doug, who was with me when we kind of brainstormed this, wide tire thing. And then I gave one to John Shope. He wanted, when he was building a diesel-powered Road Glide. I don't think he ever finished it, but he wanted that fat tire thing. So I gave one to him. And there was one other guy, I think Sean from TOL, top of the line.
Okay.
Yeah. Sean, I gave Sean one for his guy. And that bike actually got finished. I met the guy he built that bike for. I met him in Daytona, I think last year, or the year before last. He brought the bike over and put it in the show. It was cool bike, but those were the only ones. So
Yeah.
then we went. So then I had to start a new direction. So through some friends and some acquaintances, and I got hooked up with Shinko, excellent tire company. To my surprise, I didn't know much about their tires, and I just assumed they were kind of. When I hear Shinko, I think of like, remember Ching Shin, the cheap motorcycle tires we used to get for like our dirt bikes.
Yeah.
So I just associated it with that kind of stuff. It was like an off-brand, cheapy tire or whatever. Well, it's the parent company is Yokohama, and which makes an excellent racing tires. I found out that all the stunt riders that run their bikes that depend on the traction of their front brakes and their front tires to do all the stunts they do and stuff, all of them run Shinko tires.
Wow.
It's the grippiest, stickiest, most dependable. It's what all of them run. I didn't know that, but meeting some of these guys that do all those, crazy burnouts and stunts and drifting and everything, all of them run Shinko tires because they depend on them not to, when you grab your front brake and let go of your clutch, you need the front wheel to stay there and the rear wheel to spin, right? So, and they trust Shinko tires to do it. And so I got together with Shinko and we went down the road to create the SRT 777, which is the modern tire, purpose-built tire that we use now for this kit. It's a true front tire. It's load rated, speed rated. I designed the profile and the shape of the tire specifically for canyon carving. If you look at it, some other companies like V-Rubber and stuff have made some wide tires now. It's kind of catching steam, that wide tire trend.
Sure.
But they're making a low profile kind of square tire. It's kind of the same thing they make for the other stuff, right? So it's not a great tire, not built with any kind of handling in mind. It
just looks
low
profile.
I wanted the complete opposite. I wanted a big balloon tire. I wanted a big, huge radius, right? Because I want to be able to roll that tire all the way out to the edge, right? And I want it to eat the road. I don't want to feel anything underneath it. And those are a couple unique things about the SRT is that tire, and it's the only purpose-built tire for those wide tires that is DOT approved. And that tire, along with proper trail, proper geometry, has created the best handling motorcycle I've ever ridden. They're just unbelievable.
Yeah, they're ridiculous. It's crazy how great they handle. How many people told you that was a terrible idea?
Everyone.
Yeah, everybody, right? Like everybody's like, what are you doing? First of all, you're going to make a wide tire, but then it's going to be a balloon tire. It's going to be for performance. People aren't doing that for performance. They're doing it because they want it to look cool. I can think of all the objections, right?
Right. Well, we just wanted to make a great riding tire, great riding experience that still celebrated the big wheel lifestyle. Simple as that.
Yeah.
We didn't really I didn't know this whole performance thing, sport
bagger.
I didn't know that, all this stuff that's happening right now. I didn't know that was coming. That wasn't my creation. I can't take credit for that trend. But now, so our thought though now is that with all this performance bagger and all this sport touring and I don't know, when I hear performance bagger, I don't know why that is. It has a funny ring to me. It's kind of like an oxymoron.
A little bit, yeah.
Hey, look, I did all of this stuff to my bagger and pretty much any BMW out of the box would still kill it in any case.
Yeah.
but
I basically took everything off that makes it a bagger.
Right. So I don't know about that, but so we're kind of sticking our toe in this what we call sport touring, right? I'm not calling it a performance bagger.
Yeah.
So I still think that what the way I like to ride and the bikes that we build that ride that way is kind of like a sport, right? I mean, there's skill to it. There's a challenge to it. And it's super fun, right? It definitely takes some physical strength, right? To pilot a bike through a canyon at 100 miles an hour, right? For hours at a time, right? When you get up to the top of that canyon, you're like, whew,
Yeah.
right? So, but super fun. So I'm building this road glide right now that is, it's an SRT platform, and I've met these guys from Italy, ODC suspensions, and these guys work with Andriani and iMac Springs, and they work with the companies that do all the Formula One suspensions, and they've created a really top of the line suspension product. There's lots of good suspension products out there.
But this is top of the line front and rear.
This is different. It's for a touring bike, and it's built to my specs, and it fits an SRT front end. It's all about my sport touring package, right? So and the way I can experience is, so now I find myself, I went to Italy, I went to Milan, I went to suspension school, right, and learned all about suspension and why it works and how it works. And I didn't even know there was such thing as a suspension dyno. There is.
Yeah.
Totally tune your suspension to the weight, to the style, to the rider, to, are you heavy on your front brakes, heavy on your rear, two up, whatever. There's a lot to know.
Sure.
So what I found is that there's lots of good suspensions out there, and the way I compare it when people ask me, I go, well, BMW makes a very nice car, but it's not a Ferrari, you know, and this is a Ferrari. Yeah, ODC is a Ferrari. Yeah. It's just I won't get into brands, but I had a really excellent American-made brand of suspension on my bike that I loved.
Yeah,
thought it was great. Yeah. Total improvement from stock. I worked with the company. They did some kits for us and some tuning, and it really was fantastic. But then I put on this inverted fork. Even the cartridges are amazing, and a set of the suspension that were tuned for this bike, and it was just another level. It was just oh my God, I didn't think it could get any better.
Yeah.
So I've got them now on my Dyna. I've got a tall Dyna with piggyback rear suspension and a full inverted ODC front suspension, and that bike is just
rips.
Nothing it won't do, and it's so light. You get off a bag, you get on that thing, and I feel like I'm on a toy.
Yeah. Was that your son's bike?
Yes, that was Ryan's bike. Yeah.
That was right. I remember when you got that from him. You're like, this thing's sitting in your garage. It's not. We're gonna make it into a. Make it into a.
That was like 6 weeks before Sturgis. I woke up and went, shit, I don't have anything to ride to Sturgis. 6 weeks away. So I called Ryan. I said, where's that Dyna? And he was like, oh, it's in Grandma's garage. And I was like, well, it's mine now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we had got it for him years before, and he hadn't touched it in like 3 years or whatever. So he wanted to get a new car anyway, so I gave him some dough for his put down on his new car, and I went and grabbed that thing, and I did a 6-week makeover on it. So
I remember. Yeah.
Rode to Sturgis. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun, and then since then I've done so much more to it with the suspension and a new paint, and I met these guys in Italy from Ribaffini who make some really killer billet stuff. And bought a whole bunch of Ribaffini stuff for it, and so it's all I've certified that I'll never ever get near the money I have in and out of it.
I know.
So it's mine. It's mine now.
Yeah. Favorite ride? Do you have one? Is there? I mean, it's probably impossible because you've ridden to Sturgis how many years in a row now?
So if Susie and I are planning on riding together this year, I think this year. So 1986 was the first year. So, and I haven't missed a year since. So 96, 2006, 2016 would be 30 years. So this will be 35.
Wow.
34 or 35. So,
yeah. Impressive.
Never claimed that math was my shoes are on, so I can't count that.
Yeah. So what do you think it is? What's the favorite ride or memorable,
For me, I think for me it's moments more than actual rides. So there's
cool.
When I think of rides, there's certain fondness, the ride I took with my daughter to Sturgis, very memorable,
Of course.
Because we just had such an amazing week, and it was so different. It was such a different type of ride having her with me, right? There's moments of, I remember once, so this wasn't too long ago, this is 5 or 6 years ago, me and Sean, my tour manager, buddy of mine, Scott Becker, and Robbie, and a friend of mine from Idaho, Lon, and his son Rocket we're riding to Sturgis, and there's a bunch of guys that like to ride fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
What I remember about the ride is that, what I remember about this one particular day. So we were going through Yellowstone. We stopped and looked at these sulfur bubbling pits or whatever. We took off from there. I was on this Road King with 14-inch bars and a 21-inch front wheel. It was something, again, it was one of those things like I kind of threw together for Sturgis.
Sure.
But a very, very easy bike to ride, right? So super, super comfortable. And I took off from those sulfur pits and just immediately, ducked into a turn and, roared up this canyon. And Scott was behind me on a big 26-inch wheel, full tour pack, dressed up, custom road glide. And he oversteered the turn that I ditched into, got into the shoulder, which was soft gravel. And he rolled about, I don't know, maybe he got about 20 feet in the gravel, and it looked like the bike was going to come to a stop, and there was a boulder under the gravel that his front wheel hit it, and the bike did a complete somersault with him on it, just exploded in the air and did a somersault, obviously off the embankment. It didn't go over like a cliff, but it went down an embankment. He got tangled up with the bike and obviously, destroyed the front wheel, destroyed Scott. He was pretty banged up. 12 ribs, like dislocated shoulder, some
wearing a helmet
or whatever. Wearing a helmet. Yep. Wearing a helmet. And we all wear helmets, so especially the way we ride. So I didn't see it. I didn't see the whole thing. Anyway, we all ended up there. Ambulance came, tow truck came. That was the end of our day, obviously.
Sure.
About 2 hours out of Cody, Wyoming, which is where we were going to stop that night. So we all went into Cody. And I was pretty shaken up about the whole thing. Scott went to the hospital there in Cody, and we couldn't see him. I forget why, but we couldn't visit him. He was in a lot of pain, right? And so, but long story short, Sean and I got up the next morning, and for whatever reason, it was just me and Sean. Some people had left with the group. It kind of put a dampener on our little wildness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Sean and I got up early, like 6 a.m. Susie had joined me there, but she was driving. She was in her truck, and she was heading to Sturgis to open our house. So I think she left that night and went ahead because she wanted to get to the house and get things ready and stuff. So I think that day we were going to get to Sturgis or something. So anyway, Sean and I left early, and we were headed to Buffalo. And I can't tell you the mountain range you have to go over to get to Buffalo, but it's 2 lanes on both sides of the road. So it's 4 lanes wide, the canyon, going up from Cody to Buffalo. And it's a fast canyon. It's a 75 mile an hour, even in traffic and stuff, that kind of stuff. It's a fast, you got 2 lanes, to be sweeping or whatever. But so Sean and I were on the road solid at 6 a.m. Sun was just coming up. As we started up into the canyon, there was deer all over the place. And so we were a little precarious of the deer and stuff. But as we started to climb, the deer thinned out. The sun kind of reached over the mountain. It put a little light on the road. The fog kind of cleared up. And it was just one of those mornings that was just perfect riding conditions. The road was dry. It was summer. We were both on fast motorcycles. So Sean and I, as we both, what usually happens is I'll take off, and then Sean will chase me, and then I'll spend the next hour trying to lose him, right? And so we get, as you go, you get more and more loose, right? I guess is the way you take more risks, right? So turns out as we're cresting over this mountain, we're now using all 4 lanes to do our turn. So basically we're coming over into oncoming traffic on the 4 lanes, laid over on our side. And then Sean and I have this little thing where we like to drag our gloves on the ground while we're turning, right? So
dumb. It's so dumb.
And then we have a contest. We have a contest who has the most holes in their fingers when we get to the side of the contest. So the bottom line is, I think, so we did the math. When we got into Buffalo, we stopped and had lunch, and we were just vibrating with adrenaline, right? It was such, nothing happened. Nothing bad happened, right?
Yeah.
So I think I had 4 holes in my fingers of my gloves, and Sean had 5, and he was all pumped, right?
Yeah.
And he put more holes in his gloves.
He's like pressing his hand into the pavement.
So we were sitting at lunch, and we're looking at MapQuest, and we're like, okay, so how far was that or whatever? And I don't remember the exact math, but it was something like we did 240 miles of canyon in 220 minutes. Yeah, it was our average speed was like 102 miles an hour or something like that.
Wow.
And I'd have to ask Sean, he'd remember that. But it was like, that's no way. And we took out the calculator and did more math or whatever. We were like, it is what it is, dude. Like, how could we possibly have averaged 100 miles an hour, and it was just one of those things where it was like an out of body. We weren't even, safety wasn't a concern. Nothing was a concern. We never saw a car. No, we never crossed another car coming the other way. It was just one of those things where you just forgot about it. And it was almost like the canyon was closed for the 2 of us.
Yeah.
And it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
It was, some of the fastest dragging, just scraping everything, holes in gloves, incredible fun. My smile must have just been huge inside of my helmet, but it was amazing. That was an amazing ride. We talked about it for days.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. So that's one of the moments I remember where it's just sheer performance and fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was super great. Then there's so many other rides that are just camaraderie things and adventure things. I love it. I love it when we stop or when we go do something, we just make a left because it's there.
Sure.
We only go off course and just, where's this road go? I don't know. Let's find out. That's so fun to me. I just love that.
It just doesn't happen in life very often, right? Like all of our lives are fairly calculated and scheduled, so for us to take that adventure and go, you know what, let's go left and see what happens is
that's why I have a few guys that ride with me that are willing to put up with me, because when we get up in the mountains, Colorado, amazing riding, but there's great riding all over. But when we get up in the mountains and we're gone, I'm that guy that, especially as I start to, become one with my motorcycle, I'm like, hey guys, let's, what time's the group leaving? Because, we pick up more people every day, right?
Sure.
As we're riding. So by the 3rd or 4th day, sometimes it's 70 or 80 bikes, right? And if you're going to ride with that group, it's the dynamic of riding with that group, right? So it's going to be slower. It's going to be 2x2. You're going to be considerate of everybody around you, and so on. Which I don't want to do any of those things. So, So what I'll say is, hey, where's the lunch stop? Oh, it's so and so. It's 4 hours from here. Well, great. Let's get up at 4 a.m. and go, tear some stuff up, and we'll meet those guys at noon for lunch.
Sure.
And most of them, and sometimes one of our guys will be like, I'm going to sleep in. It's like, great, we'll see you up there. But most of the time, 2 or 3 of us will take off, and then it's just fun because, you can just go. Yeah. Wherever. Hey,
all bets are off. Yeah.
Yeah, you were supposed to turn back there, and I'm like, yeah, but look at that mountain. Yeah, let's go. Or sometimes I remember times like we'll be riding next to some beautiful creek or river, right? And we'll pull our bikes over and go swimming.
Yeah.
Spend an hour laying on a rock in the sun or whatever, and for me that's just amazing stuff when you get to do that and you're with like-minded friends, or even better when you're by yourself.
Yeah, sometimes for sure. What's the what are you thinking about this year? Sturgis, and you're planning on riding. What are you planning on riding? Is that FXR going to be done?
The FXR is going to be done. I've been working on an FXRT for, I think this is year 6.
Yeah, it's been a while.
So, and it's not because it's taken me 6 years to build it.
No, I know.
it's just always gets put to the side, right?
Yep.
So or I change my mind or, whatever. So, but I've been working on it for the past couple weeks. I wasn't working on it, but then Michael Lichter called me, and he's having his museum deal at the Buffalo Chip.
Yeah.
And the theme is kind of like Survivors. He's gathered a tremendous group of builders.
Mm-hmm. Heavy metal. It's called.
I think you have to have been building for over 20 years or something like that.
Yeah.
Or been in business or something for. I don't remember exactly what it is. So of course I was like, cool. Can we bring an old bike? Can we bring like one of our original? I thought it would be a collection of firsts from all those guys, right?
Yeah.
He said, dude, you'd be amazed how many guys don't have their first bikes. The guys just can't get them. They don't know where they are. They're not around. And because I'm in the middle of restoring Prodigy, the 99 2000 Open Roadster Show champion. So I just got it running.
Sure.
And I'm just putting it back together. And I was like, oh, it's so cool. And it's pristine. I mean, it just looks like the day I showed it in Oakland. And I thought that would be super fun to bring. But he's like, no, I want something new. And so I sent him some pictures of a couple things I was doing, obviously some baggers.
Sure.
He's like, and then I sent him a picture of that FXRT. So yeah, he's not shy about telling.
He doesn't mince words. He knows what he likes.
Oh, he'll tell you if it's not that he doesn't like it. He just doesn't want it for his thing. Right?
Yeah.
So I sent him the FXRT and I said, this is the bike I'm riding to Sturgis this year. And he said, no, you can't ride that to Sturgis. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's supposed to have been my Sturgis bike like the past 5 years or something. Looks like I'm finally going to get it done and ride it to Sturgis here. He's like, no, that's got to go in the
show.
Well, that's the one I got to have. And I'm like, well, I can't ride it there if you're going to, but it'll be like destroyed when it gets there.
He's like, exactly.
I was like, fuck for it, ride something else. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, come on, man. I've been waiting to ride this thing. And so we went at it a little bit. And I'm like, whatever. So I was actually going to do it in primer, and I was going to shake it down on the Sturgis run.
Yeah.
And then, take it apart, probably paint it and make it, super awesome after Sturgis. So, well, now that's not going to happen. So now I have to paint it now, and I got 60 days to get it painted and all put together and have it be.
Sounds right. Sounds about right, Paul.
So, so that's what I'm doing right now. And yes, between you and I was hoping that the event was going to get canceled. But I have this road glide that I've been working on. I don't know if you're on us with Facebook.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
One with the gold wheels, and it's kind of...
Oh, dude, I've commented on it about how unbelievably ridiculous that bike is, yeah.
That's the bike. That bike's taken forever, too. It's been fighting me, but that bike is what Susie and I are hoping to ride to Sturgis.
Cool.
And then we're going to go, we have our place up there, and I don't know. I think a lot of hamsters are going, the ones that have homes up there, and the guys own the places on Hamster Hill. And, we don't know what the temperature is going to be as far as social distancing and
all that stuff. But still go and ride. I mean, it's going to probably be a lot better riding, a lot less people, Yeah,
I can only imagine what they're going to have to do. I mean, I certainly don't think I'm going to go to, some huge concert at a venue.
Yeah, probably not.
I'm going to go stand amongst 40,000 people and watch a concert, but I don't know. I'm supposed to have my, show up there at the Full Throttle on Tuesday, the Baddest Bagger show. I don't know if we can do that. So I'm not really going to worry about that. I know one thing I've decided, we're not going to do anything commercially ourselves.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
We always occupy our shop in Deadwood, at Deadwood Cycle. So we'll go there, we'll be there, we'll set up with Jason and support his efforts. That's kind of like our Sturgis satellite. Yeah. And then we've also got a guy from All About Customs. He carries a full line of our product, and him and his wife have a beautiful rig, and they go to all the shows and they do installs at the rallies. So I'll go support him, and we'll hang out with him. Me and Sean will probably go spend a couple of days with him and help him sell stuff so he can focus on doing installs or whatever. But other than that, we're not going to set up a booth. We're just going to ride there. We're not going to send a trailer. And then we'll just see what happens.
Old school, man.
Yeah, if we can have our charity event, would be great. I feel sad for our 501c3, which is Lifescape, our children's care in Hills. We raise a lot of money for them every year. And so my biggest fundraiser for them is during Arizona Bike Week, which got canceled. So, that sucks. They're the ones that really get hurt. But good news is I sent a letter out to the hamsters who had sent me a ton of dough for registrations for the Arizona event, for the April event.
Sure.
I suggested to them that they forget about their registration monies. And just let me give it to Lifescape. They did. So I was good. And not only that, they sent me a bunch of extra money.
That's great.
They sent me extra stuff. So it looks like we'll be able to make a donation to Lifescape. I'll know in a week or two as soon as it all shakes out. But I think it's going to be as big or bigger than we've ever been able to give them before. And we didn't even.
That's amazing.
That's
amazing.
Yeah, so that's
amazing.
But I hope we can. We raise a lot of money for them at our Sturgis event. We do our silent auction in Sturgis, and we raise a few $100,000 during that Monday. And if we can't have that, then that might be a big a blow to the charity, which I hope it's not the case.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I mean, you guys do some amazing work, and it's been awesome to talk to you today. It's like every time we get on the phone and we start talking bikes, it's just like goes on and on and on, Well, and I mean, it's just, a lot of times we're talking about business, but it's a lot more fun to talk about riding. That's for sure.
Yeah. One thing it's therapy for me. I was just telling Susie the other day, I was like, I have not ridden enough this year. I need to go do a couple rides. Yep.
I hear you.
We got Nash, we got our 7-year-old, and he I can't wait till he can ride.
Yeah.
When I can take him on a ride. I'd really like to.
Yep.
Hey Nash, you want to go for a motorcycle ride with me? Not yet, he said. He's seen videos of me riding. He probably wants to hang on a little harder.
Understood. Well, man, I really appreciate your time. For people who want to follow you on social media, you're on Facebook. Is it under Bagger Nation?
It's PY Bagger Nation is Facebook and Instagram.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. And
baggernation.com.
Baggernation.com is the website.
They can look at all of your bikes. You've got pretty much all your bikes up there.
Yeah, there's a little icon in the right corner of the website that's my old Paul Yaffe Originals logo.
Yeah.
Well, not many people know it, but if you click on that, it's all the old stuff.
Yeah.
It's all the old choppers and all the old archives. So that's for there's another section that says baggers, which is the new stuff, but the old stuff is all under that Paul Yaffe Originals.
Which is pretty cool. So
you've seen a ton of it. You had to surf when we had our 20.
Yeah, we went through it all. So which was a pleasure.
A lot of archives. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate your time, and I'm sure I'll talk to you soon.
Well, we need to go for a ride soon.
Yeah, no kidding. I know. Hopefully I'll see you in Sturgis.
Yep. I hope so too. Susie and I are going to definitely, we're going to do our own little thing. We're going to leave from the house, and I think we're going to go to Telluride for a couple days. And
nice.
For a couple days, and then kind of drift on in. I think we're going to show up late, probably leave early.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be all about the ride this year for us. So.
That's for sure.
We might have.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much.
Yep. All right, buddy.
No. What were you saying? You were going to say we might have what?
Well, I would say Christian, a friend of mine, Christian, the owner of ODC from Milan, the suspension.
Oh, yeah.
So him and his wife are threatening to fly out and join us and ride to Sturgis with us.
Oh, that'd be cool.
It's really fun. He's never done it. So.
Oh, wow.
He's the rider. He rides like I ride. So I got to ride with him a little bit. He likes to tear it up. So it would be really fun to be able to host them on a trip across the West. Would be phenomenal. So
for sure.
See how it goes. So.
Right on, man. Cool. Well, thanks so much. I will. I'm sure I'll talk to you soon. Hopefully, I see you in Sturgis. Yep. All right, man. Thanks a lot. Bye.